Tim Rumpf is a senior producer for NFL Films. Last year, Tim was the on-site producer with Kirk Cousins for the polarizing and popular series Quarterback. This year, it's Tim rolling along with Justin Jefferson for an upcoming Netflix series entitled Receiver, which premieres this summer. Tim, it's Paul Allen. Good to meet you.
Great to meet you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
My man, let's start from what was first. When you guys were done editing Quarterback, did you feel it would explode to the magnitude it did with positive responses from viewers?
Yeah, I mean, we had some thoughts that it could be received pretty well just based on the access that we really had. I mean, it really was unprecedented to anything that we've ever done before. I mean, obviously at NFL Films, we've produced Hard Knocks and in-season Hard Knocks and other shows like this, but really individual players had not let us inside their lives like Kirk, Patrick, and Marcus did last season. So when we were getting things like Kirk meeting with a team psychologist or him allowing us to come home with him in his car with him and his wife, Julie, after a devastating playoff loss, it was just little moments like that we've never had in the 50-year history at NFL Films that we kind of knew that we had something special on our hands.
And with Cousins, I mean, that's the one you followed as senior producer for NFL Films.
Yep.
as part of Quarterback. I mean, Quarterback was unbelievable, man. And the reason I framed it up with that first question by being like, it could have stopped with explode to the magnitude it did. But positive responses flooding in en masse, so to speak, are just so infrequent this day and age, and Quarterback just checked every box with that. Now, with Cousins, he stole the show, didn't he? I mean, I'm not putting you in a spot to like glorify it because that was your portion of Quarterback. He stole the show, didn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, just as, you know, it was funny because pretty much every single producer that touched the show in some way, whether it was the directors in the field or people that were editing back here at Films, we kind of had this saying that, you know, people are going to watch the show for Patrick just because the star power he is, but that people will fall in love with Kirk. And I think that's two reasons for that. One was really the access that he gave us. I mean, he was a complete open book from day one. Obviously, I mentioned on the psychologist thing, but also just how we were in his home so much, and the Vikings were amazing with allowing us in the facility. But two, just kind of the person that he is. I mean, obviously, you know him well, Paul, and he's just a good human being. So we knew that he had a lot of criticism for, you know, some of his on-field performance and, you know, only winning one playoff game and all that. But we knew at the end of the day, he's a really good human being. He really works his butt off at his craft. So if we could show those two things that we knew, then the audience would kind of fall in love with him as well. Now,
Tim, Receiver this summer features Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you guys did it. I mean, I'm at the facility a lot during the season, hardly ever during the off season. But during the season, you know, you guys did it again, man. I mean, this time with JJ, discreet, rarely seen, filming as if under a cover of darkness. I mean, keeping the production private is amazingly important to you guys, right?
For sure. I mean, because the last thing we want is to become a distraction for any players that agree to do this show. You know, we don't want them to have to answer questions every single week about what they're doing with the show or if it's a distraction. And I mean, clearly it's not. The first season we did with Quarterback, a person that was on the show ends up winning MVP and winning the Super Bowl. So obviously we've kind of perfected the craft of blending in, like you said, you know, adjusting to the players' schedule and their lives because they've got busy, demanding schedules, finding a little pockets to do shoots with them. And, you know, with any kind of shoot that NFL Films does, we want to be a fly on the wall. So whatever they're doing it, we're just there to document it. And that's kind of, like I said, what we've perfected, especially these last two seasons in Minneapolis. And hats off to the Vikings for really welcoming us and and hopefully we're able to show JJ just as well as we did Kirk last season.
Tim Rumpf, senior producer, NFL Films. We're talking about a summer series. Netflix is part of it, Omaha Productions, NFL Films, and so on. And it's going to be entitled Receiver. And Justin Jefferson is a large part of it. And Tim followed and chronicled the season and the life that was Justin Jefferson from last year. Now, what goes into producing a piece like this, Tim, when you're with somebody several days a week? Like what are the tried and true keys during said stint?
Yeah, I think the main thing is with Kirk and Justin, the most important conversation is really the first one that I have with them before the season even starts. Just to understand what their routines are, what their weekly schedules are, daily schedules. I mean, because, as you guys know, it's down to the minute that they've got to be in a meeting or they've got media responsibilities or a charitable event that they need to be at. So really understanding what their patterns are, that helps. And then from there, we just build out schedules. We look at the schedule of the season before the year even begins, and there's a couple games you can probably highlight that, hey, we need some extra coverage. We would like to be with family members during these games, and then we kind of can build shoots around that. A typical weekend is somebody, is the player getting body work done on Friday? Does their family come into town on Saturday and film with them at the house? What are their routines like when they get ready and, Justin turns into his Jets persona? Little things like that can kind of show how they become these great players and personas and entertainers that they are. Because if you really just stay true to them, then you're able to show who they are as a player and a person.
Tim, what with Justin and the 2023 season? What, if anything, changed with the bit when Justin hurt the hammy and missed a month and change of games?
Yeah, so I mean, really, and I'm sure from Justin's perspective, he signed up for this show to show everyone how he's the best receiver in the NFL. He's going to go into this season, hey, I'm going to break 2,000 yards. This is going to be a historic season to capture. It's going to be amazing. Obviously, things changed as he gets hurt, but it almost became just as interesting as a story and one that a lot of people can relate to because, hey, things don't always go according to plan, but then how are you going to adjust to that and really show your true character? And I'm hoping that's what come across with this series and what we're able to show. Really all the hard work that Justin had to put in, get back on the field when a lot of people out in the national media were saying, oh, maybe he's done for the year. Maybe he just sits out. And I'm excited for people to be able to take a look at the character really that Justin is as a person and, how important it was for him to get back on the field.
I don't know if you guys were in the locker room at Soldier Field, but when they beat the Bears and Fields leaves, Bajan comes in, Justin, I think that was his first game, that he missed during the course of the run. And, Justin was, I'm not going to say melancholy before the game, but I mean, he was staring longingly at things pregame on the field at Soldier Field as the fans began to file in. You could just tell that he was saddened that he wasn't playing. So the team wins, and then the locker room is relatively joyous. And Justin was let's just say melancholy would be too strong. Even keeled would be too weak. He was somewhere in between where he was taking it all in while not being part of it. And you could just tell that he wasn't used to that. And I don't know. I don't know if you were able to chronicle, what his emotions were like when they were winning and he wasn't playing. But that would be fascinating.
Yeah, we'll have to see when it comes out. But certainly we were with him, and hats off to him again for giving us the amount of access that we were, even in those tough times.
Right.
That he said he was not used to doing.
Yep. Yeah, I think you got something good there. Now, do you happen to have any film with Justin Jefferson reacting to some of that Josh Dobbs magic?
Yeah, we were lucky enough that Justin wore a microphone. Like the agreement going in is you're wearing a mic every single game. So he was wearing a microphone the entire run where he was out from Chicago to the other Chicago game, through the bye. So, yeah, we have him on the sideline for every single game that he was out.
That's going to be awesome. Now, with Cousins, this is, once again, Tim Rumpf, senior producer, NFL Films, talking about a Netflix summer series called Receiver. Think quarterback, and as ballyhooed as it was, and it lived up to the hype. Likewise for Receiver, featuring He's JJ, along with Davante Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. And once again, it's going to premiere this summer. Now, the producer, Tim, with us now, and was with Kirk Cousins last year. With Cousins, Tim, viewers learned of his, let's say, humility, unwavering family dedication, his toughness, and scholarly approach to his craft. What traits did Justin display you believe will resonate with viewers?
I think the biggest thing, I'm hoping at least, that will come across, two things. I mean, the first thing that struck me as I started to get to know him and film with him is just how, for being the superstar that he is, he's just, like Kirk, a good human being at the end of the day, which is refreshing and great to see. And I think Vikings fans would love to know, and they've obviously seen it out while he's out in the community and everything that he does. But I think the big thing that I'm hoping comes across, and I think that will come across, is something I touched on earlier, is just when he got injured, certain athletes in other sports, they might have just folded and say, hey, I don't have a contract. I'm done. I'm me first. It was really great to see Justin be a team first person. And not only that, but really his own personal greatness in addition to the team was saying, I need to be back for the player that I am. I need to be back for my teammates. And I think that's something not only Vikings fans, but football fans across the world really will appreciate seeing.
Now, how complicated can lives of the high-enders like Cousins and JJ become? Like I'd imagine they face myriad distractions most never will come close to experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, their lives are absolutely demanding. So that's kind of why we kind of have to find our ways to fit into their lives to just kind of capture what they're already doing. Because like I was saying, I mean, when I talk to him about his schedule, it's like, hey, I'm at the facility from 7 a.m. until, 7 p.m. And then after that, I've got X, Y, and Z obligations that I need to do. So, I'm sure this time of year is a nice breather for them, but yeah, in season, and that's what makes this show so complicated, but also very fascinating. These guys always have somebody tugging at them.
Tim, how about just a few more here? Thank you, Tim. We appreciate the time.
No, of course.
That's very interesting. Looking forward to the series, too. But for you individually, how about your run, man, with a couple of Vikings? I mean, with quarterback, you get some amazing regular season games and memories. and spine tinglers week after week. Then with receiver, the best receiver in the league is crushing, gets hurt. Cousins never would play for the team again after that Lambeau day in the Achilles. Then Dobbs throws him a hospital ball in Las Vegas. What a journey, my man. Seriously, with this football team, just the last year and change.
Yeah, I will tell you, it's spending the last 2 years in Minneapolis, I've definitely become an honorary Vikings fan for sure. I mean,
well, hold on a second. Now, if you're like some of the other producers I know at NFL Films, that means you're Philly-based and Philly-raised. That's a big statement if you're from Philadelphia.
I'm actually originally from the D.C. area, but yes, I've been living in the Philly area now for the last 16 years that I've been working at NFL Films. Mm-hmm. So, I grew up as a Washington fan, so, I followed Kirk there. So I was all in as far as coming out to Minneapolis and watching him continue his career there. And obviously Justin just being the amazing player that he is, it was really a treat to get to know him off the field as well this season. But yeah, I mean, you touched on the games over the last 2 seasons have been absolutely incredible. I mean, people probably wouldn't even believe that we scripted some of this stuff like last year with the Bills, and then obviously Justin comes back this year and immediately having to go into the hospital. it's made for TV essentially.
Yeah, the is it a hand? I would imagine it's more than a handshake you have with people when they're mic'd up during games. I mean, it should be able to be just a handshake. Maybe it is, or maybe do people like make people sign stuff? And what I'm getting at here is with the quarterback series. The Buffalo game, when Cousins went to sneaking to get in and he changed the play and he couldn't get in, and he's walking back to the sideline, NFL films, you guys capture in second and none fashion because that's what you do. O'Connell, like being like, you changed the play. And Kirk's like, I know. And then he's like, Kirk, I'm here to help you. And it was just so raw and authentic and unabashed emotion between the two. But like to get there, is that there has to be a protocol on like things that the team or the individual sign off on, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, the way we're able to get that access is just the decades and decades of relationships that we've built with teams being NFL films, and obviously Steve Sable laying the foundation for all of that. But yes, I mean, the teams take a look at that mic'd up material in games just for competitive balance reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last thing we would want is to put out an episode of quarterback or receiver, and then all of a sudden Kevin O'Connell is calling us and being like, hey, you just ruined 3/4 of my game plan going into next year. I got to rewrite the entire playbook. So, yeah, they're able to take a look at some of that stuff and make sure we don't put them at a disadvantage going into the following season.
And I know you've worked on the Hard Knock series. So what is more difficult or perhaps trickier to do? Hard Knocks or like quarterback/receiver?
That's a tough question because, I mean, honestly, they both have very different challenges. I mean, Hard Knocks in the off season, it's so condensed to the 7 weeks where it's just, you're living training camp with those guys. Like the gruel that they're going through, you're going through it too because it's long hours. It's 16, 18-hour days where you've got to be filming anytime those guys are awake. Whereas something like this is taxing as well because it's just a longer period of time. And like we were saying, the roller coaster of the season, the games mean so much more. So the guys are on such bigger emotional swings where you've really got to build a relationship for them to trust you so they allow you to go into their home after they have, a great game or a horrible game. Whereas in the preseason, it doesn't quite matter as much. So I think they both kind of present their own challenges.
Did you perchance get to know any of the others like Devontae or Amon-Ra St. Brown during this run?
I did not. So, yeah, I was just with Justin the entire time.
Any idea how Kittle gets into receiver if he's a tight end?
Well, I think the great thing, the tight ends kind of do a little bit of both. So I think it's still kind of fit to have him in there. Receiver can be a broad term, guys that catch the balls.
Mm-hmm. I don't know which way NFL Films or Netflix or this like series is going to go after receiver, but like say it's offensive line. I mean, then it's O-line.
Right.
Call it O-line, man. And I was thinking about this last night, Tim, is O-line will be fun if and or when you guys get to it, because in my run, I've learned offensive linemen arguably are the smartest players in the game. And stories from the trenches can be amazing. When or is NFL Films doing or pondering O-line?
Yeah, I think that's the great thing, especially doing a receiver this year, is it kind of leaves any possibilities open from here. And I mean, it's funny that you say that because that going back to Hard Knocks days, that's the same thing. It was like we would send our cameras in the locker room, hey, go hang out by the O-line, because not only are they the smartest group, but quite often they're the funniest as well.
Right.
So I think you're onto something there.
And with running backs, I mean, that could be such an emotional piece because the martyrdom that we would hear from running backs, given the way salaries and everything is gone of late. I mean, that could be a different level of emotion in its own right?
For sure. Absolutely. All
right. Last one here. Does my main man and fellow senior producer, Greg Frith, get to follow around any of these receivers?
Greg Frith was not with anybody.
Come on.
I'm sorry to report it.
Yeah.
But Greg Frith is my buddy as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he's got other projects that have been keeping him busy.
Well, if A.J. Brown had been included in receiver, Greg would have been right by his side, correct?
There you go. I can imagine.
Yeah, he's probably working on, whenever Merrill Reese decides he's done calling games for the Eagles, probably at like age 95. I think Greg Frith is doing like a Netflix series called Vox and has been following Merrill Reese for 10 years. You know what I mean?
There you go. It wouldn't surprise me.
Anything else we need to know about the Ballyhooed Netflix series Receiver and the premiere this summer?
No, I think just look forward to sometime this summer. And if you enjoyed quarterback, I'm sure you're going to love receiver.
You're terrific. Thank you very much for the elongated segment. Good to meet you, and best of luck with the series, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, brother. That's Tim Rumpf. Oh, man, I forgot to ask him, is this the most famous thing in the history of NFL films?
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song, he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously. His face is weather-beaten. He wears a hooded sash, with a silver hat about his head, and a bristling black mustache. He growls as he storms the country, a villain big and bold. And the trees all shake and quiver and quake as he robs them of their gold. The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
That has to be.
It's NFL films immortality. I mean, quarterback was good and ballyhooed, and I meant what I said. I mean, it's if people have positive comments, they generally don't put them out there for whatever the reason. But the amount of positive comments that Netflix, the quarterback series received, it was off the charts.
Yeah.
Specifically for this day and age. But
what stinks about that, though, is you think of like how endearing Kirk was, and then he's gone, right? Like, and Mariota's story, I know, playing career aside and all of that. Mm-hmm. Like, Mariota has a cool story, like digging in deeply, and receiver will add a completely different element of it.
Yeah.
But it was,
and I'm not, Mahomes. Like it's I never needed to get into Patrick Mahomes to find likability.
Right.
But I found him to be quite likable too,
And that's the key to it. So being able to dig deeply into it is as cool as it's going to be now this summer before the season. We get to feast on JJ. I love how you put it earlier. What's up with Kittle weaseling his way into a show called Receiver as a tight end? But no, it's going to be awesome. It was a great idea having Tim on. That's super cool that JJ is going to be a part of that. And
we thank NFL Films for aiding us with that. We have 2 segments to go. In the business, we call it the penultimate. It's around the corner. And it involves betting and boondoggles. That's next on KFAN. It's 9 to noon. Everybody preparing, hopefully, for a beautiful weekend. And it is not necessarily beautiful for those immersed or those entangled in some gambling-related stories that popped up really within the last few days. Shohei Ohtani and his translator, and I'm sure a fair amount listening to 9 to noon now, have read the accounts and kind of know what's going on. But I want to hear it from Nordo to see if from somebody who's worked in that field for more than half of my life, if there's anything that jumps out at me as kind of a take, a talk, or a tell, or something that is part of the non-obvious, because that thing is thick. It's getting worse. And there are just some ancillary boondoggles that go with it, and here they are.
Yeah, so Wednesday afternoon, Shohei Ohtani, he's had a long-time interpreter. I believe this gentleman has followed him from the Angels to the Dodgers and beyond. However, he was fired on Wednesday afternoon because at least $4.5 million in wire transfers were sent from Shohei Ohtani's bank account to a bookmaking operation, and it set off a series of investigations and events.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Okay, go ahead.
So Ippei Mizuhara is the longtime friend and interpreter for Ohtani. And apparently he incurred these gambling debts to a Southern California bookmaker, and it's under federal investigations. Now, the key to this, you know this, that sports betting, as it becomes legal all over the place, it ain't legal here. It's also not legal in California as of yet either. Mm-hmm. And so reporters, as this investigation of the bookmaker got underway, reporters started asking questions about it as well. So I'm reading this via ESPN, but Ohtani told ESPN that he had transferred the funds to cover Mizahara's gambling debt. Okay, so
Ohtani told ESPN that.
Ohtani said that, yes.
Okay.
So that's the initial statement.
Yep.
My guy over here, okay, he helps me speak English, and he's got a gambling problem,
right.
So that's why I sent that money.
And if he is losing it legally and repetitively, well, that's between the translator, Shohei, and the people that are winning the money, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
So that was the initial statement, but then, well, ESPN tries to publish a story. The spokesman disavows Mizahara's account and said Ohtani's lawyers would now issue a statement. So Ohtani's like, yeah, of course I paid off the debts. Well, hold on a second. Let's get the lawyers involved and revise that statement.
Right.
In the course of responding to recent media inquiries, we discovered that Shohei has been the victim of a massive theft. So now it has gone from Ohtani paying off these debts, making the wire transfers, to now he's been the victim of theft, and we are turning the matter over to the authorities.
It's so abundantly clear, and I bet you it is so thick and widespread with the rich and the wealthy and the famous and those who just live dramatically different lives than 99.6% of the world. What I'm getting at is how oblivious they are to protocol with things and how things develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care. It's why should I care? I mean, I got this tomorrow and I could pay this off and stuff like that. And like with Cousins at that press conference 3 hours after the NFL league year began. Okay, the whole thing's done. Everything's dotted and crossed, and okay, cool. That's in. All right, cool. I guess it really gets done that quickly. And the press conference, too, 3 hours after, wow, holy cow, you're being very forward-thinking, Atlanta Falcons. Because nobody had the courage or the confidence to get with Cousins and go over things you can and cannot say.
Right.
Because he's like, I met with trainer guy yesterday. Excuse me, I called trainer guy yesterday. Okay, well, yeah, everybody does it. Cool. Until people start talking about it.
Yep.
Well, then everybody really does it. Now the NFL's in a weird spot known as embarrassment by being like, it's, I don't know if it's a hush-hush, wink-wink, hush-hush, whatever. But there's that. That's just, with all due respect to Kirk, oblivious to what is right and what is wrong per the protocol and or the rules. Ohtani, the way you laid that out. It's not.
No big deal. Of course, just handling a buddy's problem.
I mean, this is not, DodgerWire.org. Okay, just doing some ancillary. Hey, let's catch up with Shohei Ohtani. It's ESPN. It's the mothership. It's the entertainment and sports broadcasting production network, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he lost it gambling. I know where it went, and I'm here to take care of it. Well, I mean, when you say that, he lost it gambling. Abner Doubleday, Major League Baseball commissioner guy, what's his name? Tripping out. Doesn't matter.
Oh, Rob Manfred?
Thank you. Blinded by the light guy. He, when you read that as a commissioner, well, that causes major problems.
Yes,
because you're like, okay, so he's talking about just willingly giving the guy everybody sees on TV who's always right next to him, oh, by the way, in the dugout, which means he's in the clubhouse, which means he has access to injuries, which means he has access to bullpen rotation, which means he has access to lineups. Oh, that guy?
Oh, and by the way, he's the only guy within 50 yards that can understand what Shohei's saying.
Yeah, right. And, oh, that guy? Oh, yeah, this isn't a problem at all. And then Shohei moonwalks on the whole thing. Copyright Bumpy Sirwangas.
So at the same time, obliviousness is probably the right way to put it. Federal investigations have taken place because there's an illegal operation. And it's always right. It's not that the feds were watching Shohei Ohtani's bank account.
Oh, yeah.
It's that they were watching Matt Boyer, the guy that was running this illegal book.
Bro, he's betting with a a bookie, not like an offshore or like a dot whatever.
Yeah, some guy,
wow.
some guy in SoCal probably has a link to Vegas. I don't know. I'm assuming that's how it works. I have no idea.
And really, with all due respect, Shohei's translator, the guy, the perp, he's betting numbers. Seriously, he's betting numbers.
Oh, he's absolutely.
Yeah, that's betting big amounts.
Massive, because it didn't take long, apparently less than a year, for him to be more than $1 million in arrear to said illegal bookmaker.
Ooh.
So they reviewed the information. Ohtani's name was on a couple of $500,000 payments sent in last September and last October. Now, the gambling, let me see, sources close to the gambling operation said that Boyer he did deal directly with Mizuhara, who placed bets on international soccer matches and other sports, but not baseball, starting in 2021.
Yeah.
He was aware. Boyer says he was aware of the name on the wire transfers, chose not to ask any questions.
Well, what next? Now we're going to get into Shohei Ohtani's credit card statements. Now we see translator guy flying to Bangladesh. Why in Bangladesh sniffing out some cricket match, but don't tell anybody? How deep does this go?
Well, it's beautiful because Mizuhara, he asked Ohtani last year to pay off his gambling debt, which multiple sources said had ballooned to at least $4.5 million.
Right.
He had previously been placing bets via DraftKings, but he assumed the bets placed through Boyer were legal. Mm-hmm. So now we'll claim ignorance on it. No, Mizuhara.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So nobody. Throughout none of this has anybody wondered, is Ohtani physically placing bets? Mm-hmm. There's some speculation in terms of the translator placing bets and maybe if there's on someone's behalf.
Yeah. Oh, there's no speculation anymore. Shohei's I paid off his gambling debts. Oh, no, I didn't. It's unbelievable.
So then Mizuhara says, I want everyone to know Shohei had zero involvement in betting. I want people to know I did not know this was illegal. I learned my lesson the hard way. I'll never do sports betting ever again.
Oh, wow.
But on Wednesday afternoon, Mizuhara told ESPN that Ohtani had no knowledge of his gambling dets.
Wow, they're just killing themselves, man.
And that Ohtani had not transferred money to the bookmakers. So we got Ohtani himself saying he paid it off. We got gambling debt guy now saying that no, none of that happened. It was all a ruse. Nobody knew. Shohei was completely in the dark on this.
Yeah.
Mizuhara, by the way, at the time making between $300,000 and $500,000, so he's betting more on stuff than he makes in a year.
Oh, geez, really?
Which is a little dicey. Maybe unless you have some financial help of some kind. Maybe if you were attached and had a really close relationship to a guy worth $500 million. Maybe you feel better about those bets.
But the commissioner and his Bulldogs. Blinded by the light guy and the Bulldogs, the backup singers, they're now going to be looking at every Anaheimer game, everything involving Shohei Ohtani, and scrutinizing it, which is fine. That's totally fine if you have nothing to hide. But, I know you guys were having a rough run, middle September last year. It's strange that you guys set a lineup at 3 p.m. for a 7 p.m. game. Then all of a sudden at 6:15, it was nothing but a bunch of minor leaguers.
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet?
And there's somebody in Southern California who claims they lost $3 million.
Then we'll go out back. I'll kick you in the nuts.
And now all of a sudden, Shohei Ohtani's translator's in some kind of meat grinder.
And we'll call it a day.
Well, I was reading. Twitter was great. There's a ton out there. The Pete Rose related bits right now are fantastic. But some guys are you kidding me? How could we not know this was so obvious last May when he gave up 4 runs to the Athletics? That type of thing. But
wow, that's nothing's going to come of that part of it unless there is digital evidence or something like Shohei fixing a game or something. But it opens the minds to fairly think of it.
Well, I'm so dense to this. I would picture Boyer. So they met. I guess Mizuhara met him at a San Diego poker game in 2021.
Oh, Shohei was playing poker, you say?
Mizuhara met Boyer at the poker game in 2021.
Yeah.
Yep. Terrible at gambling. Never going to do it again. Never won any money. Well, that's clear. Dug myself a hole. Kept getting bigger, et cetera, et cetera. But the key. I'm so dense to this. If you're a bookie like Boyer. You're keeping numbers?
Yeah, you cut deals. But
you're not writing Mizuhara.
Of course you are.
The run line in a Dodgers. you wouldn't keep track of the specific bet itself, would you?
Well, yeah, because you have nothing to lose. The other guy has everything to lose, and he's tied to Shohei. So you want as much texting, voicemailing, emailing. You want as much if you're on that side of the equation.
Well, it's good because you're the federal felony guy. I mean,
yeah. I mean, if it's Joe Q. Rube from Fridley and he gets stuck $5,000, well, the next thing is, all right, give me 2,200. Lose my number and we'll call it a day. But if you're Shohei Ohtani translator guy, hey, I mean, come on. That's, the way some of the people work in that seedy side of the business where you're still like a bookmaker where, there are so many .coms and .orgs and .whatevers or legalization in states where people can do it on a computer or a phone or go to a brick and mortar. I mean, if you're still like shady bookmaker guy, well, then you love this. And you're cutting deals with the guy. It's like if he lost $1 million, well, he probably paid $275,000, slate clean. Let's do it again. But it's still $275. They do things like that. But
maybe a duffel bag of cash shows up and I burn the pages of my notebook that shows certain things that you don't want people to see.
So I'm guessing something got amazingly hot that has not emerged publicly.
Ooh.
And led to all of this.
So that's where it's at. Boyer, bookmaker guy, he's being potentially federally indicted at some point, felony charges from the illegal bookmaking.
Jeez.
Mizuhara's taking this public L right now because Ohtani and everybody, the law firm, everybody's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to shove all the chips in to your lap, and we're going to pretend that we knew nothing about it, despite just days ago saying that I did pay off a guy's debt.
Yeah, that's the oblivious nature of it is what still stuns me, but it shouldn't. Thank you very much for that. Let's put a wrap on the show around the corner. Good morning. Well, I'm guessing by the time we reconvene on Monday, the general manager of the Minnesota Vikings, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who, let's see, we had Jonah Williams on Monday, Shaq Griffin on Tuesday.
Yep.
And then I believe Kwesi rested Wednesday.
They took a day off, yeah.
Two, I think. Well, nothing yesterday, right?
Well, no, we got Jihad Ward and what's the other cat?
My man, you're right.
Kamu
Grugier Hill. Oh, wow. So there was 1 day of rest.
Yeah, he chilled for a day.
Yeah, and we'll see what, are there going to be 5 more Monday? I mean, we're going to have, it's going to be a version of what Jimmy Butler did before he left the Timberwolves, where he came in and said, give me the 4 worst players in this gym, and I want to play Cat and Wig and the alleged 5 best players in the gym to show you how easy they are to beat.
So who's in this scenario? Who's Layden and Tibbs? You just have to sit there like passengers and watch it.
This
happen.
would be without consternation, negativity, or bulldog boondoggling. We have enough free agents now to have a team to play the current members of the Minnesota Vikings before free agency. I mean, you got Darnold throwing to Sherfield. Then on the other side, you have Mullins going play action to Chandler, throwing deep to he's JJ. All right, cool. Tie game. Darnold, play action, wheel route. Aaron Jones, 30, 20, 15, touchdown. Ooh, Mullins was sacked by Blake Cashman. Ooh, Darnold was sacked by
Patrick Jones.
Patrick Jones, here he comes. Seriously, we have so many free agents. We have a team that can. Who needs OTAs when you can just have scrimmages every single day? This is so fascinating.
I can't believe how many. Again, it's the spending spree. I thought whether it was Gessling, we talked with Alec earlier in the week, it's almost like they expected this. I think that's kind of how Gessling put it on Tuesdays. This kind of had to happen, and he's right. I get it.
I didn't.
But I don't really. I didn't really look at it that way until we got here. Where
same.
Maybe we're competing for a Christian Wilkins type deal. Then you see some of these deals, and you're like, oh, I get it. That's probably why we're not in the mix. It's a hell of a lot of money.
Right.
Kirk goes away. We know that. But it's like when Bernard and Cashman. And why am I skipping on the third guy, Van Ginkel? When those guys go, I'm thinking, oh, this is kind of an interesting free agency. Now we can move on to the quarterback conversation. Well, then the TikTok kicker shows up. Then Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And then the list goes on.
It never stops.
It's been amazing. One guy not on that list though, PA. It's Dalton Reisner. And the longer he stays out there, because this is now the second straight year in which he's a guy that's pretty damn good at his job, that's open for business, and nobody's signing deals. I mean, at some point, it's going to be another 1 year, $6 million deal, and he's going to be a member of the Purple again.
In leadership, we trust. Hey.
Play it.
Hey.
I know you're trying to play it.
It ain't playing.
Really?
Hey. Right.
Crazy.
We're going to go and leave this faulty button bar for the program. I'm Paul Allen. Thank you very much for listening. Back with you on Monday. Here comes the con to put a wrap on the show.
Thanks to Casey's as always. Get Casey's rewards. Get deals on food and fuel. You know about the Elite Pizza. Get to Casey's today. All right. The week is over. Time to turn the light off. Here's the rap to kill clock. A simple send-off. Common ushers in for the time slot swap. Charge out today. Listening from a highway. Rest stop. Slow day for draft day steam. Quasey didn't add 10 more free agents to the team. Michigan Pro Day. McCown on site with Grant Udinski. Rookie contracts. More work for Rob Brzezinski. Cavs tonight at Target Center. No Rudy or Nas turned Finch into an inventor. Jared Allen's like 7'2" with the hair. Slow-mo looking like Dallas Graziani out there. Day 2 of the tourney, it should be nice. I figure 3 TVs in the basement should suffice. Doesn't matter to me who wins and goes through as long as Grambling shocks the world and beats Purdue.
Tell those damn guys from KFAN I don't want to hear any more those guys.
Sorry, Flip.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.